My Army buddy, Republican Congressman Tom Rooney. He's a member of the House Intelligence Committee and Appropriations Committee. Congressman, you did our inaugural show out of New York for Taking the Hill, and now you're doing our inaugural show here in D.C. It's great to have you back.
Thanks for having me, Pat.
So, Tom, walk me through, what do you think the greatest threat to American security is, Homeland Security?
Well, I think obviously, you know, as Secretary Johnson was talking about, we have to be wary of ISIS and homegrown threats here, and I think that those guys are doing a good job. We just actually, on the Intelligence Committee, which you used to be a member of with me, had the Undersecretary Taylor for Intelligence on Homeland Security there, and we were talking about what the levels of state and local to the federal government and how Homeland Security was trying to stop those threats and give a heads up to the federal agencies when they see things. And they do a really good job, things that we never hear about. But with regard to, you know, the civilians in faraway countries, and you talk about drones, you know, Director Brennan has told us that, you know, that happens, but a lot of times that's propaganda by the enemy that's inflated just for, you know, shock effects. So, I mean, I do think that it's a good program. I do think that it would be nice to have a little bit more intelligence on the ground so we know exactly, you know, who we're hitting versus just these signature strikes that everybody is talking about today. But by and large, I think it's a good program.
Yeah. I mean, people don't understand the whole spectrum. So you have the drone program, but if you didn't have that, I mean, you have Tomahawk missiles that are not as accurate. You have boots on the ground, which would cause more soldiers being casualties, unfortunately. But what was your reaction when you heard it? You know, unfortunately, there was 2 hostages.
My reaction was it was an accident. I mean, clearly we had hundreds of hours of surveillance on these guys, just like we did before, you know, we went in and took Osama bin Laden. But we were looking at these guys for a long time, and we didn't have any evidence that there was 2 people below. And so it was a judgment call that they made, and I think, you know, that reasonably they took the shot, and then we came to find out that these 2 Westerners were in there. And so, you know, it's unfortunate, but at the same time, these actors that we're looking at, both Americans, actually were participating in things that a lot of really smart people in the intelligence community and the Department of Defense thought were bad guys and could, you know, potentially do us harm. So they made a judgment call, and I don't fault them for that.
Yeah, including that Al-Qaeda's spokesman, who was an American from California. How about, though, you know, I worry about, in a sense, you know, the drone program, which has been successful in a sense, taking out these targets. But do you think because they use it as propaganda, they'll try and put, unfortunately, civilians, even if they weren't part of that explosion, ones that had recently passed away, do you worry that sometimes this could breed more terrorists or more of the local population overseas against the United States? Well,
look, our approval rating in those areas of the world is horrible. We know that, especially in Pakistan, because we use that program there. So, you know, we're definitely not building allies by utilizing this. But at the same time, I mean, we have to look out for our own national security interests. We have to look at those elements which have attacked us here before and that are pledging to do it again should they get the opportunity. So, you know, we got to take care of business for ourselves. And yeah, it's probably not winning us any favoritism in that part of the world, but I think that, and you know this being a former soldier, we go through painstaking efforts to try to make sure that we are doing everything that we can to do this the right way. And so, like I said, I wish we had more intelligence on the ground with actually human intelligence being like, hey, by the way, there might be 2 guys in the basement here, but but that's a hard part. Waziristan is where these guys were. It's very difficult. So, but I do think that we have some very good people trying to do it the right way.
Yeah, I mean, people don't even know. You know, we have SIGINT and UMIT. You know, SIGINT is the signals operation, which we are dominant on.
Correct.
And the UMIT, because of some of the cutbacks, you know, we don't have enough boots in the ground. Well, I wouldn't even say boots, but some allies in the ground.
Well, and one of the things that they also do is they try to turn some of the people that we're looking at, you know, you think about what Americans think about what our spies do in the old Russian days and stuff like that. You know, you go and you turn people, and then they help you get intelligence too. And you know, we need to have a lot more capabilities in that area, I believe.
Yeah. Let's talk about strategy when it comes to ISIS and al-Qaeda. Do you see al-Qaeda still as an imminent threat to the United States?
I do, and I mean, they're not as much in the news as much as ISIS has been because of the beheadings and the Jordanian pilot getting burned alive on TV. So, I mean, certainly they're getting all the attention, but al-Qaeda has not disappeared. But we've done a good job in dismantling a lot of the leadership like we've seen recently. I mean, those were two very high-value targets. Now, the White House says that they don't know who they didn't know that they were Americans when they hit them. They were going on a signature behavioral type strike. But in the end, I mean, that is going to wreak havoc in al-Qaeda's hierarchy, that those two guys are no longer part of the game. Yeah. But ISIS definitely is growing. They've gotten a lot of people that know how to use social media much more than al-Qaeda did, and they are definitely trying to recruit in the United States, whether to come there or to do something here. So,
yeah. Let me, you're one of the few post 9/11 veterans serving in Congress right now. You serve in the Appropriations Committee, so it's like a $3.4 trillion budget. Yeah. You are in the subcommittee for Veterans Affairs. What does that budget? I know you just past Wednesday you passed the budget out of committee. Yeah. What does that budget look like, and is it enough?
It's an increase, so it's better than last year, and look, as somebody who served not only in the military but in Congress, these things nowadays are very difficult with the gridlock in Washington. But one of the things that being a veteran and serving in the military is we have a unique perspective of actually knowing guys, whether it's at the 82nd Airborne or the 1st Cavalry Division. These are our friends. These are people we served with, yeah. and they might not be in the military anymore. So when you talk about helping them and doing the right things, it's not just some, pipe dream or trying to figure out what soldiers are thinking or wanting. You actually know because you talk to them. Yeah. And you actually live it in a little bit small way yourself. So, that's what I think about when we go through the process of doing appropriations for the VA and for veterans across this country are these programs really helping? What's going to be more useful? And so we have an increase. I got some language in this year's appropriation for, post-traumatic stress disorder, which you and I worked a lot on when you were in Congress, and also for suicide prevention and mental health. So hopefully that'll get through.
We have about 30 seconds, okay. So this is tough TV, but, we talk about budgets and moral documents, and it's easy to give money to certain things like veterans, but you've been a champion on fiscal discipline. The Joint Strike Fighter 33, there was an alternate engine the Pentagon said we don't want. You support the Pentagon, said we don't need this. And I know special interests were after you on that one. Yeah. Can you tell us real quick what that was about?
Well, there was an earmark which built a second engine for the same plane, the F-35, and it was made by a company, which I don't need to pile on the rabbit, but and it was made in a district which houses our speaker, so I had to fight a huge battle, and but it was a waste of money. And we talk about cutting defense money, which I am totally against. Sequestration, I think it's a mistake. I think it's going to do us harm. But there are things in the Pentagon that are wasteful, and there were earmarks that were used to help people in their re-elections or whatever, and that was one of them. It was just literally we were building two engines for the same plane, and it didn't need to happen, so we got rid of it.
Yeah, and the Pentagon said we don't even need it. So I remember we fought it together on this one. Listen, Congressman, I almost called you Tom there for a second. Thanks for joining us again on Taking the Hill. Thanks for your voice in Congress. It's much needed as a veteran, and looking forward to having you back on.
Thank you for doing this show. Thanks, Patty.
Thanks, brother.
All right.